There are many articles in the newspapers about it. And what that section of a very large bill that was put into place in 1996. Now, you weren't born then. And Google hadn't been born. Facebook hadn't been born. But what the Congress did, because we wanted to protect speech, but we also wanted innovation to advance because the internet was really nascent then. And so what Section 230 does is that it protects speech in terms of its content, but I think you can't hide behind Section 230 anymore. And so I think that this requires something that is approached in a very surgical way. That's the best term for me to use. And I've introduced legislation to do just that, so that we don't get rid of Section 230, because it does deal with speech, and we have to, anything we do has to be constitutional. So my legislation really directs itself to the algorithms and the manipulation of people through the algorithms. So I wanted to share that with you.
Yeah, that is very true. So along the lines of that, one controversial issue that a lot of people have with technology is the use of cyberbullying. So how can we balance our First Amendment rights versus those sort of cyberbullying? I know you mentioned that one statute, but is there anything else we can do as a community to prevent that?
Well, obviously, online harassment is a very real issue. In my day and time, it would have been called stalking, but it would have been physical. Now it's online, and it's dangerous. It's dangerous. It can lead to some really dark things. So it's important, number one, to realize that the First Amendment explicitly only stops the government from passing laws that infringe on freedoms. So that's why these issues are really tough to get at. Companies are not government agencies, and they're not limited by the First Amendment. If they want to take extreme actions to remove bullying, the First Amendment doesn't stop them in any legal way whatsoever. So I think that this requires a movement. Just as young people have marched, taken to the streets on gun violence. I think your generation has really you've moved the American people to a level of a new sense of awareness and conscience on that issue. I think this issue requires it. The democratic process really only works when citizens participate, when they elect leaders who are going to help them solve the challenges of our time. And, we're seeing this right now. So I think that there needs to be pressure put on companies, because it's through their platforms that this happens. Now, most of the major platforms have come around to at least saying that cyberbullying is against their community standards. But I'd have to say that they haven't matured enough in detecting cyberbullying. And so that needs to be advanced. Now, Facebook and Instagram's most recent transparency report says that they proactively remove less than a third of cyberbullying. So you can tell we're not there. They need to do more. I appreciate that recognizing bullying isn't always easy. There are a lot of gray areas, including inside jokes between friends. But I fully appreciate that you're thinking about the balance of free speech and bullying, but I do think that the right balance is between cyberbullying and over-censoring speech that may seem like bullying, but is in fact is not bullying at all. So we have a ways to go on this, but I think that that students I think teams of students weighing in with the companies would be could be very effective. It could be very effective. You should set up one of these with Mark Zuckerberg, or the CEO of Google or any other company. I think that it would be a fascinating discussion.
I definitely agree. That would be a really interesting point of view as well from the perspective of tech companies.
Yes.
One question that we had in the chat was, how can technology be modified so that it is less addictive but continues to be a useful tool?
Well, I think that has to, the government is not going to get into that. I think that we would be called the nanny state if we did. Number one, I think there need to be some really serious discussions in your generation and about the amount of time that is spent online. And, a real honest discussion. How healthy is it? How dependent are we on that small little handheld innovative piece that is essentially a computer? I discipline myself, but I don't have small children anymore. I see how others are just, I don't know. I mean, they're just tied to it from morning until night. I don't think that's healthy. I really don't. But I think that parents of young children, just as in my day, I limited the time that my children watched TV. In fact, at that time, they complained because I wouldn't subscribe to cable. And they said, all of our friends have cable and we don't have cable. I said, that's right. And we're not going to. There are enough programs on TV. You can watch for a limited time, and the rest of the time you can read, you can go outside and play, you can exercise. There are plenty of other things to do. So I think that we all need to examine what is necessary, what might be some fun, but should it be 18 and 16 hours a day, every single day of the week, all year long? I don't think so.
The next question that we have from the chat is, what considerations are being made in the House with regard to creating opportunities to train the American workforce for a rapid transition into tech careers, as many traditional jobs are being phased out?
Well, it's an excellent question. And a week from today, a week from tonight, I think we will know what path our country, the American people, have chosen for us to move down. I have been a longtime supporter and been able to put the policy on paper, make it the law of the land with money in it to advance STEM. In fact, I have a contest every year of high school students where they bring forward their own inventions in terms of coding and all of that. But we have fallen behind other industrialized nations. And so science, technology, engineering, and math, this needs to be widespread in terms of it being taught, and I think at much younger ages. Girls do fine with math up until a certain grade, and then they fall off. So we need to begin this, and it has to be, I think, a national effort. So that the monies really go into the local communities. The federal government is not really in charge of K through 12 education. We are in higher institutions of learning, but in a very small way, for K through 12 education. But nonetheless, we have the wherewithal to grow this effort. This needs to be integrated into the learning in elementary school so that there is a love of learning, whether it's science, whether it's anything that's related to technology and math. And the engineering obviously will follow. The engineering will follow, but there has to be that basic love of learning of that subject matter in order to get to the engineering. And I'm proud of what I've been able to get done, but I can't tell you that it is a robust program in the country where it is actually taking place in the lower grades of elementary school.
Following up on that, I know in 2005, you helped craft the innovation agenda and worked on the 0.2 version of that in 2016. Would you mind telling us more about the agenda and its importance?
Well, it was the very first innovation agenda. It was my idea, number one, to do it. And the reason I did was because everything I read, what the indicators were that the American workforce was really in danger of falling behind our global competitors. I'm not interested in America being number 17th or 24th or 7th or 11th. I believe that we have the capacity to be the number one in everything. So we recognize the need for Congress to implement policies so that we would ensure that the American economy and its workforce remained the most innovative and competitive in the world. So we crafted what we did. We didn't leave it to ourselves and just what a group of members thought. What we did, and the very first meeting, roundtable discussion, took place at Stanford University. And we brought in, obviously, academic leaders, private sector leaders, those that, obviously academia, and listened to what they said. And from that first meeting that I organized and was co-hosted, as I said, at Stanford University, we had the same type of meetings all over the country, in the Northeast, in the Northwest, in the southern part of all over the country. And so then we came together and we pulled together all of the important ideas that had been brought forward to us from our regional meetings. And that yielded a platform of 22 planks. Now, every single one of them was passed by the Congress. It was really superb. We invented ARPA. I think you've heard of DARPA, and that has been in place for a long time. And that's the development on the military side. ARPA was for the environment, and that is still in place. Still working very well. So out of all of, there was a new investment in STEM education. There was investment in R&D at the federal level to promote private sector innovation. We spurred the effort across the country for affordable access to broadband technology then. And we made a robust investment in new and emerging technologies for clean and sustainable energy. That was a huge thing in 2005. And we provided small businesses with the tools to drive, the entrepreneurial innovation and job creation throughout our economy. So much of what we did in Innovation 2.0, when we went back to it, recognized first of all, we recognized that our work was far from finished and that we needed to build on what we had done with the original innovation agenda. And so there are many policies that proceeded out of that. Now, out of the original 22 planks, every single one, as I said, were signed into law with the exception of one, and that was comprehensive immigration reform. And we're still struggling with that today. It's a long, winding road, but America is not better off because we haven't addressed it. This is a must for our country. This is how our country has grown. This is how our country has prospered. And other countries, when they saw us closing our doors, they said, come here. You're welcome here. Come to our universities. Come to our colleges. So this is overall a real net loss for our country. So hopefully hopefully we'll have a new administration and the whole issue of immigration reform be taken up. There are visa categories that really need to be taken off the books because they've outlived their purpose. There are categories that need to be created. There are other categories that need to be reformed. Certainly the DACA kids and dreamers. But I don't want to do this piecemeal. We should do a comprehensive immigration reform bill that a new president would sign into law. And it is, number one, it is a huge economic driver. It is a huge economic driver. And you should all keep that in mind as immigration reform is, when you hear about it in the news or read about it, either online or otherwise.
Awesome. Thank you so much. From the chat, we have a question. Since our generation is tech savvy, do you think that in the future, having the ability to vote online would entice more of the younger generation to vote?
To do what online? I didn't catch that.
To vote online.
Well, we're having right now many problems related to voting. And to be able to vote online has to be absolutely 1,000% secure. 1,000% secure. The vote is something that is sacred in our country. And I'm sure you've read about, you've heard about, somewhat familiar with him, our late colleague, the great John Lewis. John Lewis, the civil rights leader who passed away this year. John Lewis always said, he was a dear friend of mine, he always used to say that the vote is so sacred and it is the most powerful, nonviolent tool for change in our country, in a democracy. So while I would love to see the enablement of people to vote online, I have to tell you, during this pandemic, we couldn't even put that into place for the Congress to vote online, rather than having to fly to Washington, D.C. So we set up a system where proxy voting is allowed if it's a necessity, not a convenience, but a necessity. And the reason for that is there wasn't anyone that could, with 1,000% guarantee that our votes would not be tampered with. So we're not there yet. We're not there yet. Do I think that across the board we need to make voting easier? I mean, the idea that there are thousands of people standing in lines today, that should not be the case in the United States of America. This is a presidential election, national elections. And some of our systems are like horse and buggy in comparison to what they should be. And so we have a ways to go on this. We haven't gotten there yet.
Similar to this question, a lot of people in the chat are asking about how technology can be used in completing civic duties, such as voting, especially when we find voters being unable to vote in person due to COVID.
Well, in California, if you're already registered to vote, you automatically receive a ballot, and it's very easy to sit down at your kitchen table, at your desk, at your kitchen counter, and fill that out. That's exactly what I did when it arrived. I filled it out. I mailed it in. There is no question that we need to upgrade our systems across the country. We have to restore the Voting Rights Act, because where you see the voter suppression that's taking place in the states that used to do that, they're doing it all over again. And it was the Supreme Court of the United States that ripped the heart out of the Voting Rights Act. Now, we passed legislation in the House to restore it, but the Senate, under the leadership of Mitch McConnell, would not take it up. So, you know, who is elected matters. It really does matter. And, but that's for students to research how people vote, and, you know, what you care about. You care about climate change, you care about gun violence, you care about our democracy and our democratic tools, and that everyone have them and that no one is left behind. These are all elected officials that vote on these issues. So it really matters. It really matters who's in place, who's there, and how they're voting. It really does matter. And I know that there are those that say, well, it really doesn't matter, and I don't like how I'd like to have a beer with so-and-so, looks like a good guy to me, or gal. But it does matter. It does matter. It's our country. Every generation has had challenges. We've always met our challenges. What I want more than anything else, and it's reflected in my votes, is that your generation, will inherit a better America. A better America, whether it's social justice, environmental justice, whether we have policies that grow our economy so that it's an economy that everyone participates in. We're a democracy. That's who and what we are as a people. That's why I'm a first generation American. My parents, my mother and father, came to the United States as children. They were like 8 and 10 years old when each one of them came with my grandparents. And they didn't come here to take anything away from anyone. They came here to be contributors. They loved the word America. They loved the word America. My father used to say the best idea that was ever born was America. So, you know, we renew ourselves through our elections. We need to, as we did in the innovation agenda and so many other pieces of legislation, we need to keep planting the seeds to strengthen our democracy. When you strengthen our democracy, we strengthen our economy, we improve people's lives. That's what this is all about. That's what this is about. And I say to constituents over and over and over again, America is going to be in great hands with the youngest generation that's coming up. You're far more sophisticated. You have a global view, a worldly view of things. And you have said to many of the adults, essentially, you have failed us. You need to act on climate change. You need to act on gun violence. So I have great faith in you because I know how you think. I've spent time with the students that are part of my student advisory board. I've had that in place since a month after I first was sworn in as a member of Congress. And And then, of course, the student challenges, the app challenge that we launched in the district. Actually, I invented that in Congress. And now almost every single congressional district, high school students are participating in that challenge. So I'm very proud of that. So I have great faith in you. And I've recommended, by the way, to all of my friends and family to vote for the proposition that's on the ballot that 17-year-olds be allowed to vote in primaries as long as they turn 18 years old for the general election. I think if you can get a driver's license at 16 years old, you should be able to vote.
I definitely agree. I know that you're pretty busy, so we'll have one last question.
Okay.
So, do you think that there should be increasing regulation of social media companies? And if so, how and with what agencies?
Well, as I said, and I'm going to wind back to the legislation that I spoke of, what worries me enormously are the algorithms and the platforms that have a very, very dark underside. I'm not saying the entirety of companies are engaged in that, but they are engaged in it. And I think that part of Section 230 has to be addressed by the Congress. Now, there is a great deal of talk about monopoly and what to be done about that. I haven't necessarily, an antitrust. My sensibilities, this is what my sensibilities are. If we don't address and correct these dark undersides of the platforms and how the algorithms are used, you can chop a company up into 10 pieces, and then you're going to have 10 small companies that are still doing the same thing. So I think the examination of companies relative to antitrust and monopoly behavior is very important to examine. But again, these issues that I'm raising, I believe, are the ones that we really have to get our arms around and correct, because it's damaging our democracy. There's no question about it in my mind.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman Eshoo, for coming and meeting with us. I know it really means a lot to all of us that you took out the time to come and speak with us and share your viewpoints on these.
Well, you're wonderful. You're wonderful. I want you to know that you're a source of inspiration to me. You really are. And I love spending time with students. I always learn from you. And I hope that this has been instructive to you. So thank you for reaching out and wanting to meet with me. I'll always be there for you. And I love that the Harker School has the Civic Tech Club. How old is it?
This is actually a new club that we started this year.
Bravo to you. See what I'm talking about? I'm so proud of you. I really am proud of you. So I know that this is a tough time. There's virtual learning. We have to be masked. We can't really come together in groups. But if this is the way we need to meet, I welcome it. And if any of you are you a mixture of high school students?
Yes, people are from all grades here.
All grades, all grades. Well, for those if there are any that are old enough, I hope you have voted. And for the rest of you, look forward to it, because you know what? At the end of the day, we're really not asked very much as citizens to do. No one likes paying taxes, but we have to keep our communities going, to keep our nation going, the defense of our nation, our national parks, healthcare, you name it. There's jury duty and vote. So I don't think very much is really asked of us at the end of the day. And so I know that you're going to be great contributors to our country, to our communities here at home. And it is a rough, tough time. We're all being tested. We're going to come through this. We're going to come through this. In many ways, it's a very sad time because there are so many that have lost a loved one. You know, we're inching toward 250,000 American souls lost. But you know what? We owe it to them, to their families, and to those that have died for our country, fighting for our country, that we give our best to our country. So what I'm saying to you is keep the faith, keep the faith. And we're going to see a week from tonight the collective judgment of the American people, because that's where the real power lies, with the people of our country. Small communities, rural communities, big cities, suburbs, black, white, yellow, both parties, all parties. It is that's the manifestation of a democracy. So I look forward to it, and I look forward to continue to work with you. You're terrific, and I have such great faith in each one of you. You're fabulous. Don't ever forget that.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. You've really been an inspiration to us all.
Well, you are to me, and bravo to your teachers. Bravo to your teachers. Tell them I sent all my thanks and respect to them. Everyone in my family is an educator. So, you know, besides my parents, my teachers helped shape me, and they're helping to shape you along with your family. So bravo to all of them. So thank you. And please take careful care of yourselves, no foolishness, and stay healthy.
We will. Thank you again. And thank you for everyone who attended the meeting. I hope it was really educational for all of you.
Great. Thank you, one and all. Bye-bye. Bye.
Before Harker students leave, if you're interested in more events like this, feel free to join our Discord for updates. I just sent the link in the chat.
Awesome. Enjoyed very much. Thanks for including it and reaching out, Dia.
Of course. Thank you so much for attending, Mr. Merrill.
We have a lot of my students there too, so.
Great job, guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
Do we have to stay back as officers or what?
You don't have to necessarily.
Hi, Mr. Rim.
Does anybody know how to leave?
It's
in the bottom right. There's like
on
a leave
the
button.
bottom right.
You can remove him if you can't.
Is it?
Yeah,
should I remove you?
You know.
Mr. Calver, should I remove you, or have you figured it out?
Wait, I found it. Bye.
Bye, Eric.
Bye.
Mr. Rim, how is everything going with you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. What topic are you on in your honors class?
We're doing Persia right now. We're doing
nice.
Persian chart on Persia.
Oh yes, it's one of my favorite topics.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
The Persia chart was fun.
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, Savi.
Hi.
Thank you for letting us use your Zoom.
Oh no, you're welcome. You're welcome anytime. Okay, yeah. I'm your advisor, so just anytime. Yeah. Great job. I'm proud of you guys. I can't believe you snagged that congresswoman, and then you guys are so young and you're close.
Yeah,
that's a great. Honestly, that's a great accomplishment. Yeah, good for you.
Mr. Rim, are you a permanent teacher now?
Yeah, I am actually. Yeah, surprisingly.
Actually, I think what's even more.
Dr. Meyer retired permanently, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's even more surprising is we got her right before the election.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I looked her up and she's not competitive, right? I think she has it pretty locked down. Is that right?
Yeah.
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 She's actually in a close
Yes.
Oh, is
race
she? Oh.
with,
Yeah,
Rishi
Dia and
Kumar.
I were doing an
Maybe.
internship with
It's
her
close,
challenger.
Oh, who's her challenger?
It was really funny.
Yeah, we actually did.
Yeah, you should get Rishi Kumar. Yesterday, I went on a driving lesson and I saw the lawn signs of both Rishi Kumar and Anna Eshoo.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
that's funny.
And she had a
He's
lot
pretty
for
competitive.
Ritesh
Okay.
Tandon for some reason. I don't know. There's no way he's gonna win.
You
Yeah.
Yeah.
or Rishi Kumar. Did you do his fellowship thing?
Yes. I spent
did
maybe
the
5
fellowship.
hours
I
in
was
total.
with him
Well,
for a year.
I spent like 5 hours in total probably doing it.
Is he
like
a
maybe
spent a
6
year
or
with his
7.
Democrat?
campaign.
Democrat, obviously.
They're both.
Democrat.
Okay.
It's
Oh, they're both
California.
They're both Democrats.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So they
if he
could
was
both
Republican,
run.
he's gonna lose definitely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, it depends on the district.
Yeah.
Like I'm currently like in this is called Three Rivers. I rent an Airbnb, and every other let's just talk quietly. I'm outside. Every other sign is like a huge Trump sign. So I'm like I gotta be extra careful. I'm like a little scared, but it's So it depends on what. Yeah, this is a very rural area.
Oh yeah, Three Rivers, California.
Yeah.
I just dropped like 5 things.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you heard that.
RBG.
There's like this heater under my desk because I'm actually in like Tahoe right now. Oh my god.
Oh,
And
you're
it
in
keeps
Tahoe?
falling. It keeps falling and I hate it. I hate it. more.
I'm at home.
What do you all think is going to happen with the Senate?
Honestly, Senate is harder to predict than general
I
election.
think that it's interesting. I mean,
I read an article today
Especially with
saying
the
that
Supreme
if
Court
the polls are
nomination.
wrong, just like 2016, then Biden will actually get 342 votes. If the polls are wrong by the same error margin,
he'll
then
still
Biden
win.
will actually get 342 votes.
Because all he needs is Pennsylvania and Michigan, and he already has Michigan.
If he doesn't get
so
Pennsylvania, he could get one of the Sun Belt states.
if he doesn't get Pennsylvania, he still has Michigan and Wisconsin. So that's fine.
You look at Michigan. Michigan, the margin is super high.
It's he's winning by a lot in Michigan.
I think he could lose Pennsylvania, but he might get either Georgia
Honestly,
or
based
North
on
Carolina.
2016 and past years, in
Alex
my opinion,
Zai
I just
entered.
never trust the polls.
Alex Zai entered when it's over. Wow.
Yeah.
No, let him
We
in.
may
Let
not
him
know
in.
on the election night.
Let him in. Let him in.
We won't know on election night. We'll know.
What icebreaker question?
No, sorry.
I lost the poll. Let's share the results.
Fingers out.
Stop share.
But yeah, I think that the polls are pretty indicative of what's going to happen in the Senate, though. Just the fact that so many states
for the
are
Senate,
contested.
for the Senate, but like for the general